Also on a coordinate plane, we can find distance and we can find perimeter and area of shapes. So that's what we're going to be covering in this mini lesson. So distance on a coordinate plane, when doing this, sometimes you find distance using absolute value. So sometimes you ignore the negatives altogether. It just depends on where they're located in the coordinate plane. So a lot of sixth graders find this very easy only because you just have to count how far each point is away from each other. I will show you also, if you don't have a coordinate plane, how to sort of add and subtract to find the distance. So when you're finding distance on a coordinate plane, you're just going to basically count. So in this case, A is at -1, +2, and B is at +3, +2. So if I want to find the distance between point A and point B, I would go from -1 to 3. So here is an example where I would not use our -1 to find the sum of how far it is from each other. So from going from -1 to +3, I just need to figure out how many points that is away from each other. So from -1 to 0, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So the distance between A and B is 4 units. So again, this is a case where we would need to use absolute value. Okay, if I wanted to find the distance between B and C, again, B is at +3, +2, and C is at +3, -5. So if I wanted to go from B to C, I would just count how many spaces away it is from each other. And again, in this one, I would need to use absolute value. So here I would not use this as a -5. I would use this as a +5 because the distance between C and the x-axis is 5 units. So if I'm going from B to C, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So from B to C, that is 7 units away from each other. Okay? All right, now going from B to D, this is when I wouldn't have to worry about absolute value at all. And I would actually just figure out how far it is from 3 +2 to 3 +5. So in this case, I'm actually subtracting. So from 2 to 5, it is 1, 2, 3 spots away. So this is 3 units away from each other. So when we have to use absolute value, we're actually adding. So if you noticed here, 1 plus 3 is 4. From here, 2 plus 5 is 7. But from here, 2 and 5, we're actually subtracting and we're going 5 minus 2 and we're getting the 3. And that is because they're both in the same quadrant. So if they're not in the same quadrant, you're going to be using absolute value and you're going to be adding your quantities together. But if they're in the same quadrant, you're actually subtracting the two together. This could be very useful when we don't have a coordinate plane. So let's say, for example, I have 5, 7, and I have coordinate 6, 7. All right, so if I wanted to know what the distance is between these 2 points, I know that these are both positive values, and so they're both going to be in that first quadrant. And since my 7s are the same, I only have to look at the 5 and the 6. And since they're in the same quadrant, I need to subtract 5 and 6. So this is going to be 1 unit away from each other. Okay, now some of us are not visual, some of us are very visual learners. Then we get out a piece of graph paper, plot your x and your y coordinate, graph the 2 points, see how far away they are from each other. Okay, all right, so again, let's do one more example. If I have -2, 6 and -2, -5, okay, I know that these points are in different quadrants because I have a negative and a positive and a negative and a negative. So -2, 6 is located in quadrant 2. -2, -5 is located down here in quadrant 3. So since they're in different quadrants, I'm technically going to be adding and using my absolute value. Okay, since my -2's are the same, I'm going to ignore them. Okay, and I'm going to move on to 6 and -5. So the difference between 6 and -5, the distance between these two numbers is going to be 11 units. So this is a case where I'm going to worry about absolute value and take the absolute value of -5. Again, if you're just given this problem and no picture to go off of, then get out a piece of scrap paper, draw the x coordinate and the y coordinate and graph these. -2, +6 would be up here. -2, -5 would be down here. And then I can determine how far away they are from each other. And that would be 11 units. What about if we have a shape like a square or a rectangle or something like that? How can we use distance on a coordinate plane? Well, same thing, and we can actually use it to find area and perimeter of a shape. So let's take this first rectangle, my blue rectangle. I've labeled it A, B, C, and D. All right, and I want to find the perimeter and the area of this shape. All right, so first thing I need to do is find what the length and the width are of my rectangle. So if I look from A to D, this goes from 1 to 3. So therefore it is 2 units, 1, 2. So this is 2 units long. Okay, if I'm looking from A to B, it goes from 1 to 4. So that is 1, 2, 3 units long. All right, so now if I want to find area, area is length times width. So 2 times 3 is 6. So this is 6 units squared. Okay. And if I want to find perimeter, I need to find out what it is all the way around. So if this is 2 units long and this is 3 units long, this means this is 2 and this is 3 as well. So 2 plus 3 plus 2 plus 3, my perimeter is going to be 10 units. All right. Okay, and that is working in just one quadrant. I had to subtract 1 minus 3. 1 from 3 is 2, and 1 from 4 is 3. All right, so what if we're crossing one of our axes? So for example, my red rectangle here. All right, so again, same thing. We need to find the distance between the 2 points. All right, E and F are in the same quadrant. So I only have to go from -1 to -3. So that's only 2 units away from each other. Okay, so going from here, this point is at 1, and this point is way down here at -4. So since they're in different quadrants, I'm going to be actually adding them. So I'm going to be using that absolute value of -4. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. All right, so this is 5 units long. So again, if I want to find the area, I do length times width. So 2 times 5, so area is 10 units squared. And if I want to find perimeter, I need to add all the way around. So 2 plus 5 plus 2 plus 5 is 14. So the perimeter is 14 units around. And that's how you use distance in order to find perimeter and area of a quadrilateral on a coordinate plane.